This week in East Brunswick, the school board elections were held. Before getting into other township news, here briefly are the results. Current expenses and capital outlay were defeated soundly, 3,000 plus votes to 1,800 votes. The new Board of Education will be incumbent Dr. David Seiden, Russell Walker, and Robert Van Wagner. The big story this week was the Holocaust Conference held this Sunday at the East Brunswick Jewish Center. Here, Rabbi Rogoff makes opening remarks, welcoming residents and guests, among them keynote speaker Governor Thomas Kean.
We gathered together here this evening to commemorate and to pay honor and tribute to those who lost their lives during the reign of terror in Europe. We gathered together in the full knowledge of what has occurred and with a profound hope and prayer that it will not ever occur again.
The conference brought together educators, religion scholars, and survivors of the Nazi death camps for an exhibition and series of seminars on the Holocaust. A survivor of Auschwitz, Tova Friedman, spoke openly of her wartime experiences.
We had constant counts. The counts lasted, they were called appel. They lasted 4 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, one in the morning, one at night. If God forbid one was missing, one person out of thousands was missing, they'd start counting all over again. So you had to account for every person. One day I woke up. My person sleeping right next to me had died. The first thing I did, I ran to the couple and I said, such and such died. Fine, bring her. Well, she was 12 years old. To me, she was so old, 12. She was almost as old as my mother. For me, she was tall, and I couldn't budge her. I tried to budge her. I picked her up by her feet, and I dragged her all the way to that section where they had other dead piled up. You asked me, was I upset? When you grow up in a ghetto, when that's all you know, when you have no frame of reference, you have no schools, there isn't an idea that, what's wrong with that? I remember asking a question, doesn't everybody live like that? Isn't what life is all about? Don't forget, I didn't have anything else to look that I could remember. I had no memories of anything else.
The theme of the conference, the Holocaust, we must never forget, life depends on it, was echoed by Governor Kean in his keynote address. He has called for a Holocaust curriculum in New Jersey schools. Kean recalled his father, who as congressman sounded the alarm against Nazi oppression.
40 years ago, when my father stood in the United States Congress and became one of the first to speak out and call our government and the governments of other countries to help the Jewish people and other victims of Nazi oppression, the truth of Auschwitz was not known, and perhaps in most places not even suspected. And it was not until later that in this country and elsewhere, suddenly the truth started to come through. We were safe at that time, we thought. We were removed by an ocean, the same way as our children today are removed by time. But we found out the truth, and we know it, and we owe it to our children to act and to leave them that knowledge. Why teach them about past horror? Why show them the depths to which mankind can sink? Why expose them to the pain of generations past? The answer, and it has to be the ringing answer, so that forever we can prevent that pain from ever happening again in any form whatsoever. And I keep getting asked, and I'm asked much too often, why a curriculum in the Holocaust? What about other people who have suffered throughout history? And I've had letters from people who simply say, what purpose does it serve? And my answer is this, that through this program, we hope to teach our children and their children to apply the lessons of the Holocaust suffering to all humankind. Man's inhumanity rears up in all places, in all times. Rarely does it do so as monstrously as it did so in Nazi Germany. By educating our children about the period, we can teach them to look around them and see the same forces at work whenever men would harm each other for whatever reason.
After the memorial service was over, Sentinel reporter Ria Besroon spoke with the governor.
Welcome to East Brunswick.
Thank you.
And I would like to know what motivated you to name a Holocaust Commemoration Week.
Well, it's always been my very, very strong feeling that very, very important for all of us to remember this event, to realize that it happened, to understand the reality of it, and because it must never happen again. And the only way, I believe, as somebody who's studied history and made a career of it, that the only way to prevent something like this happening again is to remember, to understand it, and therefore, by doing that, I think we can prevent it.
How did your recent trip to Israel add to the meaning of this day for you?
Well, it added very, very much, because one of the main purposes I went to Israel for was for a service honoring my father at Yad Vashem, and Yad Vashem is the Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem, and going there, being able to light the eternal flame in memory of my father, relight it, rekindle it, to see that museum and to see the memorials to 6 million people, and that's hard to understand for everybody, 6 million people who were killed.
Well, what experiences in Israel made the biggest impression on you?
Oh, I think there were so many. You know, visiting Israel, first of all, that did. Obviously, the Holocaust Museum and Memorial and the service to my father made a tremendous impression. Secondly, some modern events, being able to be the speaker at the World Conference of Soviet Jewry and realizing the problems that exist now in Soviet Russia for people who want freedom, freedom to worship and freedom to think and speak. Looking at the democracy working, I was in the Knesset when they elected a new president, and it's wonderful in the world for those of us in this country who believe in democracy to be able to see another democracy that's functioning as well as a democracy does in Israel, and then basically all of the modern and excitement of modern Israel laid over a land that is now in all faiths and all religions, and almost any place you know where you go is some place where David was, or one of the prophets, or Jesus, or it's a kind of experience when you put it all together that I have never had before, and I probably will never have again.
Why do you believe we should never forget the Holocaust? Do you think it could happen again?
Well, there's no question about it, and I hate to say that because you know, people don't even like now to realize that it actually happened. Many people that I talk to say, how could that happen? And yet you see the pictures and you see the evidence, and we all realize that yes, it did happen. And I happen to believe with Santayana that if you don't learn history, then you're bound to repeat it. And there is somewhere in the depths of humankind something that could cause a Holocaust. And it happened not only to the Jewish people, but it's happened before, unfortunately, in our history. And the only way to prevent it, I feel, is to understand it. And to, if we all understand it and know that it happened, then I believe there is enough goodness in the human heart to make sure it'll never happen again.
Is that the reason for your solid support that you gave the Anti-Defamation League curriculum on Holocaust studies for the public schools?
Absolutely. There's a curriculum, and it's something that is available to those public schools who want to use it. I think it's very, very important. I think all our children, and this applies for children, particularly children who I think, like my own, who are not Jewish, to understand and to know about the Holocaust and to hear about it as I heard about it from my father. I think that's a very important lesson that all of us should learn, and I believe it should be as much as possible in the public schools with the rest of the curriculum.
Do you believe that conferences such as this one held today at the East Brunswick Jewish Center and education in the public schools can prevent a reoccurrence?
I believe this is the kind of ways that we work toward making sure it will never happen again, because it impels us to action. When we see what can happen, and we see anywhere in the world today, frankly, where there's inhumanity and justice and dictatorship and tyranny, we realize that things like the Holocaust are possible. And when you study and meet, as I did, people who are out of Russia, for instance, only a year, and can explain the kind of things that peoples, and particularly Jewish people, are going through in Russia today. They're going through the same things in Russia today that Jews in Nazi Germany were going through in the early 1930s. And you can see that we're on a path that could be prelude unless we act and speak and care enough for a Holocaust. And therefore it's not just talking, it's acting.
Did you grow up with this because of your father? Did he make you aware?
I think in a large degree he was, I guess, certainly one of the first, if not the first member of the United States Congress to speak out against the Holocaust and the kind of things which he came to realize were happening in Nazi Germany, and to call on leaders of this country and as well as other leaders in the world to speak out and do something. And fortunately, it was a number of years before anybody paid attention and did what should have been done right then. But I think he did make me aware of what was going on and what did go on, and the great necessity of preventing it ever happening again in this world.
Now I see this pin that you're wearing. What is the significance?
This is called a Zakoa pin. It signifies remembrance, and I wear it during this week to really to signify that I'm not going to forget, and that people who see this pin hopefully will ask me what it is, and I can explain to them it's for the Holocaust and that none of us should ever forget.
Ria also spoke briefly with Seymour Siegel, Executive Director of the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Council and organizer of the Gathering of Holocaust Survivors held in Washington this past Monday.
Mr. Siegel, can you tell me something? How many people do you expect at this gathering?
We expect between 10 and 15,000 visitors to Washington from around the country, and in fact around the world. There'll be delegations, visiting delegations from Canada, from South America, from South Africa, and wherever Jews live, and Israel, of course, too. But the vast bulk will be people who live in the United States from coast to coast.
Is this the first of several? Is this going to be an annual event?
This is the first time that this has occurred in this country, although 2 years ago, 1981, there was a gathering in Jerusalem, Israel.
What is the purpose of these gatherings?
The purpose of the gathering is for the survivors of these horrors to assemble together to see if they can meet each other, renew old acquaintances, search out. Here we have a whole elaborate system of computers where everybody's listed and they can look up, push a button, see if some relatives are there to express gratitude to the United States. That's why it's being held in Washington.
Now today you gave a lecture on religion in the Holocaust.
Right.
Can you tell me what your message is?
Well, my message is that the Holocaust shows to the depths to which human nature can sink and the cruelty that one group of people can inflict on another, and that it's important, therefore, to nurture religion and ethics in our lives and the lives of our children so that these horrible offenses will not reoccur.
Governor Kane viewed the exhibit on display this Sunday at the conference, which included many photographs and other items relating to the Holocaust. It has now been moved to the library, where it will be on display through April. Sharon Karmazin is in the studio to talk with Library Director David Weil and Rabbi Rogoff about the exhibit and the new collection of Holocaust-related materials and books now being added to the library's collection.
This is Sharon Karmazin for This Week in East Brunswick, live at the library. And with me this week, I have David Weil, Library Director, and Rabbi Chaim Rogoff from the East Brunswick Jewish Center. As many of you may know, throughout the state, throughout the country, and here in East Brunswick, Holocaust Remembrance Week is taking place this week. Over 16,000 people gathered in Washington, D.C. to remember and to educate others about what happened almost 40 years ago, the Holocaust. And here in East Brunswick, as you know, Governor Thomas Kane was present on Sunday night to declare Holocaust Week and to have the ceremonies that went on at East Brunswick made the state's official recognition of the Holocaust and the remembrance. In addition to what went on at the temple on Sunday night, we're here to tell everyone what the East Brunswick Jewish Center has been doing as a long-range project to educate and let people know about the Holocaust by presenting a special collection of materials to the East Brunswick Library for permanent borrowing and display. David, welcome. Rabbi, welcome.
Thank you.
David, can you tell us a little bit about the origin of the Holocaust collection?
About 3 years ago, we were approached by Carl and Bunny Kaplan, members of the Jewish Center, who expressed interest in exploring the possibility of raising funds to provide a collection for the library on this subject. Although at that time we had a representative sample of materials that had been published over the years, we recognized that we did not have a collection in depth or of any specialization that would benefit anybody beyond the general reader. So we began a series of discussions and planning meetings, which ultimately led to the successful campaign to raise the funds and to our long-term selection of materials for this collection.
Rabbi, can you talk a little bit about the motivation for the temple to raise money for something that would be a benefit outside of the temple's immediate community?
It was the feeling of the board and the membership of the congregation that the Holocaust was an event which affected all of the world, both Jews and non-Jews, along with 6 million Jews who were killed by the Nazis in the camps. Almost 5 million non-Jews were killed. And we felt that it was important for every community to have available to its citizens material, photographs, pictures, all kinds of things that might be able to help educate children and adults to what occurred, so that something like that could never ever happen again anywhere in the world.
I see. Now can you tell us, David, how was the collection developed here at the library?
We began by reviewing the library selection tools that we had for titles that we had not purchased for the last several years because they were outside the scope of our normal purchasing budget. We gathered reviews and shared them with the committee and selected a few things. Last year, the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith published a list of Holocaust materials in a catalog form that we found so outstanding, we decided to use that as the base for the collection that we would gather up to the point of the dedication, which was scheduled for this past weekend. And we have taken that catalog, taken it apart, added holding statements to it so that it, as put back together, will be the official catalog of the collection. But we are just at the midpoint of collecting materials now.
I see. Now can you tell me, if people come to the library to look for these materials, where would they go to find them?
We have tried to put as much as we could in one section of the shelves in the Dewey classification number for the Holocaust. The other things will all be noted in the catalog where they are located. But the stack end, where most of the books are, will have a plaque to be donated by the Jewish Center, which will denote the collection.
I see. Will the books also be marked?
The books that were purchased from funds raised by the East Brunswick Jewish Center will be plated with a book plate that will also be designed and presented with the collection. This is similar to our policy for other donated books of placing book plates in the books.
I see. Rabbi, just in closing, can you tell us what plans you have for future growth of the collection or programming that might be associated with it?
Yes, we sincerely hope, as Mrs. Smilo indicated on Sunday, that this will be the first of many events that are held in cooperation between the synagogue and the library, that each year we might be able to have some kind of joint program to commemorate the Holocaust, and that the size and the breadth of the collection will continue to grow as additional funds are raised.
I understand just before we started here today, you mentioned that President Reagan has heard about the program and the collection and that he was very favorably impressed with it. Do you want to say something about that?
Yes, we were privileged to have with us on Sunday Dr. Seymour Siegel, who is the executive director of the United States Memorial Holocaust Council, who indicated to me in a telephone conversation that the conference in Washington was attended on the first evening by the President of the United States. And at that time, Professor Siegel indicated to President Reagan that he had been here in East Brunswick the night before, and that the synagogue had presented the public library with this collection. And according to Professor Siegel, the President responded that he was very much impressed with the cooperation of public and religious institutions, and there should be many, many more such cooperations.
Well, we invite everyone into the library to see the new holdings in the Holocaust collection, and we're sure that they will be very well used for many years to come. This is Sharon Karmazin with Rabbi Chaim Rogoff and David Weil from the library. Until next time.
Now, for a quick look at East Brunswick High School sports, let's join golf team coach Leon Florick.
Good afternoon. I'm Leon Florick, one of the golf coaches at East Brunswick High School. I'd like to introduce one of the other golf coaches, Dr. Ken Burnett, and also Mr. King, who will be assisting us. He's not being able to make it this afternoon. I'd like to introduce the young men who will be playing for East Brunswick this year. To my right, playing number 1 will be Jay Kimball, 2, Dave Florick, 3, John Gogoli, 4, Scott Hoaglander, 5, John Fleming, 6, Steve Savo, Tom Rettinger, Glenn Snip, and Rich Perrette, and Timmy King. We're looking forward to a productive season. We have 4 of these young men who played last year on the varsity, Steve, Scott, John, and Dave, and recently Jay Kimball transferred in from Wardlaw. He's shot a couple of 39s in practice. Dave has been around 40, John's been in the low 40s, Scott's had a 40. John's had a 42, Steve's around mid-40s. We're looking forward to an excellent season. We think we can take the conference, definitely take the conference if we don't mess up a little bit along the line. And certainly I think we have a very good shot at some part of the counties.
Saturday, April 16th at East Brunswick High School, the East Brunswick Wrestling Tournament for Future Champions will be held. All 8th through 11th graders are eligible. Be there between 8 and 9:30 a.m. for the weigh-in. Matches will start at 10:30 a.m. That's the East Brunswick Wrestling Tournament for Future Champions at the high school this Saturday, 10:30 a.m.
Hello everybody. Welcome to the East Brunswick Museum. We have a very special new show here this spring called Splendors of the Orient. This is being presented as part of the year-long Ethnic Heritage Festival in the community of East Brunswick and South River. The exhibit which we're presenting will feature the arts, crafts, dress, and antiquities of such countries as China, Japan, Thailand, Tibet, Korea, and the Philippines. The exhibit is planned to ignite public awareness and interest in a culture which is very rich in artistic creativeness. The exhibit will be open until June 5th. The museum is open every Saturday and Sunday between the hours of 1:30 and 4 p.m. Admission is free. We hope you will come and enjoy and share the pleasures which we have had in preparing it.
Coming soon, the Friends of the East Brunswick Library will be holding their 9th annual bargain book sale at the Brunswick Square Mall. Thousands of hardcover and paperback books for adults and children will be on sale from April 19th to April 24th. A special preview night, Monday, April 18th from 7 to 9 p.m. will kick off the sale. There will be a $1 admission charge. Now Adrian Eisner of the Township Consumer Affairs Office will discuss concert ticket fraud.
Hello, and welcome to Consumer Aware. I'm Adrian Eisner of the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. We have just received news that a judge has ordered 2 New Jersey concert ticket agencies to immediately stop operation and directed Attorney General Erwin Kimmelman to take physical possession of the records and assets of the firms. Tickets Unlimited of Fort Lee and Teaneck, New Jersey, and Prime Tickets of Old Bridge, New Jersey, their company offices and their agents were ordered to stop offering or selling concert tickets by Essex County Superior Court Judge Reginald Stanton. 89 consumers from various parts of the country have filed complaints with the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs, claiming that they are due over $11,000 from the defendants. Allegedly, the defendants individually and the 2 firms offered in local and national advertisements on radio and cable television networks and in newspapers to sell tickets to concerts that were never scheduled to occur. They accepted deposits towards the purchase of concert tickets without disclosing that the event was unscheduled. They have failed to disclose that any tickets actually offered would be sold above face value, in some cases hundreds of dollars above. They represented in advertising and by telephone that a full refund would be given, but failed to make such refunds when formal requests were presented. These practices allegedly have taken place from March 4th, 1981 until the present. We urge anyone responding to an advertisement for concert tickets to confirm with the arena or hall involved and be sure that a concert has actually been scheduled before spending any money. A phone call could prevent disappointment and loss of money. If you have any questions about concert tickets, please call the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office at 390-6954. We are there Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. And thank you for joining me on Consumer Aware.
Melanie Kaczynski, a young East Brunswick violinist, will make her concert debut at Playhouse 22, 210 Dunham's Corner Road, East Brunswick, this Saturday at 8 p.m. This will be the second in a series presenting young artists sponsored by the East Brunswick Arts Commission. Melanie was a first-place winner in the Garden State Philharmonic Society Young Artists Solo Competition in 1979, as well as the first-place winner of the High School Scholarship Competition, June 1979. Admission for the concert is free. Seating is on a first-come, first-served basis.
Hi, this is Sharon Karmazin, back again on This Week in East Brunswick, and now I have a different guest. It's Jim Shaw, and he's president of the East Brunswick Chamber of Commerce. Jim is here to tell us a little bit about a special meeting that the East Brunswick Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring this week.
Sharon,
Jim, welcome.
thank you for inviting me down. Yes, I am here to tell the public and to discuss with you for a few moments the meeting that we're having on April 19th. The subject is Wheelabrator Fry, East Brunswick, and you, Resource Recovery. We're going to hold the meeting again on April 19th at 7:30 p.m. The doors will open. The meeting will start at 8 o'clock p.m. at the Burdee Cove Vocational High School on Ruse Lane. The Chamber is sponsoring the meeting.
What has gotten the Chamber interested in this subject?
Well, the subject, of course, involves an industry which is looking to locate in East Brunswick, and that being Wheelabrator Fry Energy Resource Recovery. There's been a lot of talk about resource recovery, the negative impact upon a town that people consider as a possibility, as well as the favorable impacts of an industry such as this coming to East Brunswick. There's been a lot of discussion. Recently, there was a discussion in a meeting for the public, which was conducted by the East Brunswick Township Steering Committee on Resource Recovery, in which they had a meeting at the library with Wheelabrator Fry. And it was supposed to be open to questions from the audience. For some reason, the meeting turned into a full-length presentation by Wheelabrator Fry on resource recovery. And the questions that were from that were available, the time available to the audience was very limited. And when the library had to shut it off, I guess the meeting had to close because of the filming at 11:30, there was quite a few people who were upset. As a result of that, we've been asked as an impartial group to sponsor a town meeting, a forum, in which the public could come down and question one-on-one Wheelabrator Fry in regards to any question that they might have as to the impact on our town and our community as a result of having a resource recovery plant here.
Is this a first for the Chamber to be involved with a local town meeting?
Yes, this is really the first time that I'm aware of that the Chamber is sponsoring a town meeting.
How do you expect the format of this meeting to differ from the one you mentioned before?
All right. Originally, well, let me tell you how we have ended up. Right at this point here, what we're going to have on stage will be Wheelabrator Fry, Executive Vice President Joseph Ferranti. He will have several people from his organization with him who will be capable of answering questions over a varied scope. They will put on a 20 to 30 minute informational presentation. At the conclusion of that presentation, we are going to open the show to the audience. There will be a microphone in the auditorium audience. People will line up, and they will be given an opportunity to ask questions directly of Wheelabrator Fry.
So you really do expect a lot of interplay between the public and the people from Wheelabrator Fry?
What we're hoping for is a lot of interplay. We're going to make the opportunity available to the public, a chance to come out and find out all you ever wanted to know about resource recovery and how it's going to affect our community.
I see. Well, it certainly is a subject that's been talked about quite a lot here and is probably one of the highest priorities in our town right now.
It's our interest to keep this meeting, by the way, one of a public-spirited community effort. We want to have an environment in which these questions can be asked, in which everyone will be assured of getting a reasonable and honest, a direct answer to their questions.
Has the Chamber taken any position on the Wheelabrator Fry issue?
They have taken a position on the Wheelabrator Fry issue, in a sense. If you recall, back in the beginning, when the freeholders were trying to determine as to whether a resource recovery, which is to be located in Middlesex County, whether it would be private industry or government run, the Chamber did take a position and notify the freeholders that what they were looking for was private enterprise to have the opportunity to run a resource recovery. So the only position the Chamber has taken as of this date is a preference for private industry to run a resource recovery unit as opposed to government-operated facility.
Do you anticipate they'll go further?
One of the purposes and one of the hopes we have for this meeting is that if we get a good turnout and we get a lot of good questions and a lot of answers, it should make it that much easier for everybody in town to form an opinion, because they'll have knowledge of the situation. They can come to a knowledgeable conclusion. At that time, it is our intention to poll the members, the general membership of the East Brunswick Regional Chamber of Commerce, and get a position. At this point, it's been stated that if the Chamber comes out with a majority to support resource recovery in East Brunswick, then we will do so. If the general membership takes a position that they would like to oppose it or to take no position, then that's what we will do.
I see. Okay, again, remind people when and where the meeting is.
Okay, it's on April 19th. It's at the Burdee Co-Vocational High School on Roos Lane in East Brunswick. The doors will open at 7:30 p.m. The presentation by Wheelabrator Fry will start at 8 o'clock. At 8:30, we hope to have the questions from the audience. And at this point, we are looking at a 10:30 p.m. finish to the meeting.
So there'll be lots of time for questions.
A lot of time. Okay. So if anybody that has any questions, anybody that has an interest in the community and would like to come out, we're asking them to come out this time.
Okay. Mr. Shaw, thank you for coming, being with us today. This is Sharon Karmazin at the library. Until next time.
At this week's Township Council meeting, a neighborhood disagreement postponed decision on an ordinance which would allow trucks to travel on Walker Street. Mayor Fox explains the situation.
If we received a routine recommendation from traffic safety that truck traffic be prohibited on Walker Street, and after that was enacted, we found out that there was one resident on Walker Street who had a large tractor-type truck that pulls a trailer, which was his means of livelihood. And that the effect of this ordinance was to prevent him from doing what he'd done for many years, which is to bring his tractor without a trailer home and park it on his property. After some discussion, the administration recommended, the council agreed that we should repeal that ordinance because it seemed to be more of a neighborhood dispute than a question of public safety, and it seemed appropriate to do that.
A lawyer representing one of the neighbors asked the council to delay their decision. At first they refused, but then reversed their decision at the urging of the mayor, who felt it would be unfair to disallow the right to properly prepare a defense. Here is the truck driver's side of the story.
I have a petition from every other neighbor on that block and the surrounding block and I own this truck. Nobody has anything to say about me parking the truck there but these people. What am I supposed to do with that truck? That's my livelihood. I mean, if it was a jump, was a wreck, I could see it. But that tractor happens to be a $32,000 tractor. It's worth almost as much as a man's house. I don't feel I want to park it somewhere else and have it vandalized to satisfy one family. And there's only him and his wife living there. I got 5 kids I'm feeding with that truck.